Okay. So the point that I wanted to make, number one, did anybody watch the video from last week? Yes. Okay, I did. And I misspoke at the end. I said something that I'll correct myself. I think everybody knew I just misspoke. But I said that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo comes from the Gohonzon. Okay, and then I said it's the Gohonzon, or Nam-myoho, somehow I screwed it up. But I want to clarify again. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo comes from the Gohonzon. The Gohonzon doesn't come from Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That's where I misspoke. And last week I know I wasn't feeling well, and I may have been difficult to understand, but when I went back and checked what I said, I didn't really find, other than a couple of, again, misspoke points, I didn't see anything that was that confusing. But when I looked around the table last week, I saw a lot of confusion, or a lot of blank faces. Now, I don't know if it was because I was sick and everybody was worried I was going to fall over. No. Additionally, my wife is my big sounding board, and she told me, man, I didn't understand. What were you really saying? So I guess I need to go back and make sure that everybody understands clearly what I was saying. Again, did anybody read what I put on the line, the group line?
Yeah.
All those four quotes from three different goshos, right? Mm-hmm. And did anybody, 4 different goshos actually, happen to all be 4 top 10. Okay? Did you understand what I was trying to convey in those, in adding those quotes from these major goshos? Because we're going to end up reading them anyhow. That's the whole idea here, is we're going to be reading three stages and or the three what is it? Pardon me. Four. Right. 4 stages and 5 stages of practice. The 4. Whatever. What is it? The 4.
4 stages.
Where is that gosho? Here, at any rate, let me just go to that. 4 stages of faith.
Yeah.
Or the 5th, and the 5 stages of practice.
Yeah.
So let me go to this here. All right. So what I was trying to do, and why I had set out in the direction that I did last week, was because I wanted to be able to try to convey to you an understanding that I have of what the Gohonzon is and what they're talking about when they talk about all this stuff. Because I'm going to make some declaratives, and they're not just things that I made up myself. They're the things that I was taught, and I had to figure out exactly how all that fit. And when I talked about that last week, there might have been an impression that I was saying that this is up to you to just make up as you go along. That isn't what I was trying to say at all. And somehow Mei Ling kind of got this understanding that there was this process where you had to just figure it all out for yourself. Oh. All right? And that's what I had said from the very beginning in the initial stages, because your Buddhahood is not written down somewhere. And I'll say that again, that's a truth. That's a fact. I didn't ask anybody to bring a copy of Lectures on the Sutra by Josei Toda. But President Toda says even way back when, again, Buddhahood is not anything anybody else can acquire. You have to acquire your own Buddhahood. Yep. Okay? Yes. You have to have the seeking spirit to find it within you. Yes. All right? Yeah. You can be taught that it exists, but that's not the same as making it manifest. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. That's the point. When I said you got to do it on your own, every single person that attains actual Ichinen Sanzen does so on the basis of their own efforts, not based on just the teaching itself. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. All right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I was trying to say. I was saying that, I go back to, let me go to what I just quote from On Repaying Debts of Gratitude.
But okay. It was clear?
Huh?
It was clear?
It was clear to you. It wasn't necessarily clear to everybody. Okay. All right? So that, you understood that I was talking about the fact that I was referring to your own seeking, not something that you divine. I also even clarified, that's why I'm giving you the lineage of this understanding, okay? So that you perceive it clearly for what it is. It's a lineage of understanding. And the thing that makes it valid is the proof of actual fact. That's the point. that these clarifications and qualifications have been occurring for a very long time. When Myolo discusses the three major writings of Tentai, and he adds something other than what Tentai said in words and phrases. He's got on words and phrases, right? All these, he's got a commentary on all three of the major teachings of Tentai, which were actually recorded by Chang'an. All right? So when he doesn't quote Tentai and he puts his own quote in, and then Nichiren goes back and he quotes Myolo. Why is he quoting Myolo? Why does he quote Myolo? Because Myolo said things Tentai didn't say. Okay. Myolo qualified based on Tentai's clarification things in his own life that he understood with his life. So he said them as he expressed them and understood them in his life as a Buddha. Understand that. Okay? So every Buddha that has made commentary has added something from their own Buddhahood, or they'd have nothing to say, right? They'd just be repeating what was already said before them. Do you understand? Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. The whole purpose was to qualify why this lineage that I'm explaining exists is correct. How it can be correct. How this lineage doesn't differ with anything that's already doctrinally set as its foundation. Okay? I'm trying to get you to understand the Gohonzon from the perception that I have, which I've had from the very beginning. And let me just go ahead and then put that on the table before I get into all this. My original teacher, Mr. Matsuoka, explained this to me as what is the Gohonzon? All these kinds of questions. He finally, Tom, that's a very deep question. I'll give you the direct, correct answer, but you have to chant. You must accept what I say and chant Daimoku until you understand it. You get a lot of those kinds of answers if you have the right mentor, because it's not about your capacity in this moment. It's the capacity that you'll have over the course of your lifetime as you fulfill your mission as a Buddha, right? So Mr. Matsuoka explained it to me. This is the life of Nichiren Daishonin. The Gohonzon is the embodiment of the life of Nichiren Daishonin. He didn't qualify it much beyond that. All right? And I could never understand, as I saw President Toda qualify exactly that same thing in the lectures on the Sutras, right? He qualifies, what is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo? It's the name of Nichiren Daishonin. He's qualifying the Daishonin's true identity as the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one. Perceive that. And I think you're way ahead of the fact. It's not necessary that you perceive that. That's what I'm going to qualify at the end when I read the entity of the law. You can either understand the Renge as the figurative lotus or the entity of the lotus. It doesn't matter. Either way, you attain Buddhahood in a single lifetime based on the Buddhism of the sowing. Is everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Okay, so what I first put in this week to try and clarify what I was saying last week, I'll just jump to, rather than give you the old fox never forgets, that whole big long thing there. The key on repaying debts of gratitude is that the Daishonin qualifies unequivocally, but if one intends to repay these great debts of gratitude, one can only hope to do so if one learns and masters Buddhism, becoming a person of wisdom. If one does not, one will be like a man who attempts to lead a company of the blind over bridges and across rivers when he himself has sightless eyes. Can a ship steered by someone who cannot even tell the direction of the wind ever carry the traveling merchants to the mountains where treasures lie? So that's the key quote there. He's saying, you're not going to get there by showing up once a week for a study meeting. You're going to have to chant Daimoku in front of the Gohonzon about this issue and bring it forth from your life. This isn't something that you read up on. Okay? That's what I'm saying. If you never attack it on the basis of aspiration for enlightenment, okay, how can you ever be clear on what that is for the sake of being able to express it to other people? You'll still always be talking theoretically. All right? Unless you aspire for enlightenment, you cannot attain it. Unless you can attain it, you can't express it in a manner in which other people can see that they can replicate it. Okay? So, going back then to last week, we discussed Nichikan. Everybody's clear about who Nichikan was. We discussed the 6-volume writing.
Yeah.
Okay? What did I said one of the most significant things about the 6-volume writing is what? His clarification of the one great secret law, and also his clarification of the oneness of the person in law. Okay? So what is the one great secret law? No! The Gohonzon. Understand, again, everything emanates from the Gohonzon. Why does everything emanate from the Gohonzon? Because the Gohonzon is the essential life of the original Buddha. Okay? So what is the teaching that this Buddha learned? It's the teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay? So who knows what the difference between a bodhisattva and a worthy and a sage are versus a Buddha? When we read this, when you read this, and he talks about the sage at the beginning of the Kalpa of Continuance, you notice that he says the sage. What's he talking? Why does he say the sage at the beginning of the Kalpa of Continuance? Does everybody know what the difference between a worthy and a sage is? Okay, it's almost like the world of learning and realization, only it's in the bodhisattva. Okay? In other words, a worthy is someone that can learn from a teacher and learn understandings. Okay? A sage is someone that can perceive things without being taught. Okay? That's why Nichiren always calls himself the sage Nichiren. The sage Nichiren. What's he saying when he says he's the sage Nichiren? He's saying he's someone capable of perceiving things that have not been taught to him. Okay? Dozinbo didn't teach this to him. He divined this teaching the Buddhism of the sowing from what he was studying. Okay? So are you with me?
Yes.
So let's go to just the one great secret law. The object of devotion of the essential teaching, again, the essential teaching being Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, one of the 3 great secret laws in Nichiren's teachings. The other 2 of the 3 great secret laws are the Daimoku of the essential teaching and the sanctuary of the essential teaching. Why is that significant? It says one of the 3 great secret laws. What are the 3 great secret laws? What is the significance of the 3 great secret laws? We just discussed it last week. What is the significance of the 3 great secret laws? They establish the capacity for you to attain enlightenment in this lifetime, just chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, because in that process of embracing the 3 great secret laws, which is the invocation, the object of devotion, and the sanctuary, okay, we already qualified the 3 types of learning that are necessary to be the Buddha. That was the next thing that I wrote from the 4 stages of faith and the 5 stages of practice. All right? On the 4 stages of faith and the 5 stages of practice, I wrote, I have received the string of... I won't get into that. Let me go ahead and read it. On the 4 stages of faith and the 5 stages of practice. All right? And we're going to read this whole Gosho, but I'm getting through all of this preliminary stuff so that when we read these Goshos, you understand I don't have to explain them again and again from the beginning. All right, he says, scholars of Buddhism these days all agree on the following: whether in the Buddha's lifetime or after his passing, those who wish to practice the Lotus Sutra must devote themselves to the 3 types of learning. If they neglect any one of these, they cannot attain the Buddha way. All right? But the Buddhism of the sowing negates that. That's why he goes on to say, in the past, I too subscribed to this opinion. But he doesn't anymore, because he's now teaching the Buddhism of the sowing, which primarily occurs after Tatsuna-kuchi. Are you understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So, he goes on to say, in the 4 stages of faith, in the 5 stages of practice, why do you not advocate the meditation on the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, but instead simply encourage the chanting of the Daimoku? This is page 788 to 789. He says, answer, because I don't have to, is really the answer he's going to give here. He says, because what I'm doing is so much more profound, it encompasses all that without doing any of that other stuff. All right? He says, why do you not advocate the meditation on the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, but instead simply encourage the chanting of the Daimoku? Answer, the 2 characters that comprise the name of Japan contain within them all the people and animals and wealth in the 66 provinces of the country, without a single omission. And the two characters that make up the name India, do they not likewise contain within the 70 countries of India? Miolo says, when for the sake of brevity one mentions only the Daimoku or title, the entire sutra is by implication included therein. He also says, when for the sake of brevity we speak of the 10 worlds or the 10 factors and the 3,000 realms, the 3,000 realms are perfectly encompassed therein. So he's saying these are all interchangeable. They're all referring to the same aspect, the original state. Okay, are you with me on all that?
Yes.
He says, when Bodhisattva Manjushri and the Venerable Ananda came to compile all the words spoken by the Buddha at the 3 assemblies during the 8 years in which the Lotus Sutra was preached, they wrote down the title Myoho Renge-kyo, and to show their understanding that the entire sutra is contained in these 5 characters, they proceeded with the words, "This is what I heard." Now, this is Nichiren's teaching. You understand that, right? This is not to be found anywhere else. You know, Tentai's already done his whole thing in words and phrases and then the Makashikan. Okay? So this is the qualification of Nichiren now saying the Buddhism of the sowing and Nam Myoho Renge-kyo. That's what he's specifically talking about. He says, if a person simply chants Nam Myoho Renge-kyo with, well, question, if a person simply chants Nam Myoho Renge-kyo with no understanding of its meaning, are the benefits of understanding thereby included? He says, yes. When a baby drinks milk, it has no understanding of its taste, and yet its body is naturally nourished. Whoever took the wonderful medicines of Javika, which must have tasted terrible, knowing what they were compounded. Knowing of what they were compounded. Water has no intent, and yet it can put out fire. Fire consumes things, and yet how can we say it does so consciously? This is the explanation of both Nagarjuna and Tentai, and I am resting it here. He's saying, in other words, what they explain is adequate for the teaching that I'm now expressing now. My teaching is not in conflict with what they've already said. That's the whole point. That's what I'm saying, is always matching up. All right? He says, question, why do you say all the teachings are contained within the Daimoku? He says here, he goes to a previous mentor of the Lotus lineage. He says, Chang'an writes, hence, Tentai's explanation of the title in the preface conveys the profound meaning of the sutra. The profound meaning indicates the heart of the text, and the heart of the text encompasses the whole of the theoretical and essential teachings. Okay, so he's saying, Tentai's already saying there's an essence here that encompasses everything. All right? He hasn't qualified what it is specifically. And Mielo writes, on the basis of the heart of the text of the Lotus Sutra. And everybody understands what he says, the heart of the text, what he's speaking of. He's speaking in the latter day of the law to the reference of Nam Myoho Renge-kyo. He did this in the middle day of the law. He made these commentaries, but he's speaking to the essence of the sutra, which in the middle day of the law was the sutra. In the latter day of the law, it's the 3 great secret laws. Do you understand? Is everybody with me? Okay. So we don't have to do all that stuff in the latter day, is the point. But we're not in conflict with any of the stuff they did have to do in the former and the middle day. Do you understand? Why? Because we're the disciples of the original teacher. Do you understand? Okay. And so are all other Buddhas. There are no other Buddhas that are disciples of anything other than the original teacher. Do you understand? Wouldn't that make sense? If the original teacher is the origin of the teaching, then everybody that has gained emancipation is actually a disciple of that teacher. That makes sense, right? The tip of the tip. Okay? That's original. All right? Though muddy water has no mind, it can catch the moon's reflection and so naturally becomes clear. When plants and trees receive the rainfall, they can hardly be aware of what they are doing, yet do they not, proceed
to put forth blossoms.
Put forth blossoms. Hang on. How did I miss that part then? Pardon me. Okay, no, I'm going further. Pardon me. Because I have to pop it out. It stops here. Okay, all right. Here.
You can hardly be aware of.
Okay. Though muddy water has no mind, it can catch the moon's reflection and so naturally becomes clear. When plants and trees receive the rainfall, they can hardly be aware of what they are doing, and yet do they not proceed to put forth blossoms? The 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo do not represent the sutra text, nor are they its meaning. They are nothing other than the intent of the entire sutra. So even though the beginners in Buddhist practice may not understand their significance, by practicing these 5 characters, they will naturally conform to the sutra's intent. My point all along was to get you to understand what is the sutra's intent ultimately, actually. To introduce you to the life of the eternal Buddha, who is the original teacher of all Buddhas, so that you can become the Buddha that you already are, by virtue of the relationship of being a human being. Do you understand? Do you understand? Okay. So then, let me finish with the one great secret law. Here the essential teaching refers to the teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo implicit in the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra. The object of devotion of the essential teaching is the basis of the 3 great secret laws. I'll say it again. The object of devotion of the essential teaching is the basis of the 3 great secret laws. Chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with faith in the object of devotion is the daimoku of the essential teaching. And the place where one enshrines the object of devotion and chants the daimoku is the sanctuary of the essential teaching. Thus, the object of devotion encompasses all 3 great secret laws within itself and is called the one great secret law. Okay? Now, I'm going to go to Nimpo Ika, the oneness of person and law. Okay? To again, reestablish what Nichikan's teaching has been that was unknown to any of the other Nichiren schools. The Buddhism of the sowing is unknown to any of the other Nichiren schools. What do we practice? Even as Soka Gakkai members, we practice the Buddhism of the sowing. Correct? Yes. Unknown to other Nichiren schools. All right? So, the oneness of the person in law, again, a principle that did not exist until Nichikan clarified it. A principle established by Nichikan. This is on page 479 of the Dictionary of Buddhism. Established by Nichikan, the 26th chief priest of Taisekaji Temple in Japan, with regard to Nichiren's teaching, indicating that the object of devotion in terms of the person and the object of devotion in terms of the law are one in their essence. The law is inseparable from the person and vice versa. The Treasure Tower, 11th chapter of the Lotus Sutra states, if one upholds this sutra, one will be upholding the Buddha's body. This is again, which Buddha's body? The eternal Buddha's body. Do you understand? Not Shakyamuni's body. Okay? Not your Buddha body. Do you understand? The body that's one with the law, that your life it comprises. Do you understand? All right. So, he's saying this means that the Lotus Sutra is the Buddha's body. That is, the Buddha person and the teaching law he expounded are one and inseparable. Nichiren revealed and spread the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and inscribed it in the form of a mandala known as the Gohonzon to enable all people of the latter day to attain Buddhahood. For this reason, he is regarded as the Buddha of the latter day of the law, based on Nichikan's clarification. This is the object of devotion in terms of the law, or the physical embodiment of the eternal and intrinsic law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo that Nichiren realized and manifested within his own life. But is it any different than that law as it exists in your life? No. But as the original teacher, he's the one to embody it in the object of devotion. And it's that intrinsic nature that exists already in your life that responds and combines with that object of devotion to bring out your original state, that of Buddhahood. Do you understand? Do you understand? This is what I was trying to talk about last week. He says, hence Nichiren is the object of devotion in terms of the person. All right? Do you understand? But there's no separation between your life and the life of Nichiren. Do you understand? So based on that relationship, you also have a oneness with the Gohonzon. It's the same concept as his oneness. Only yours came after his because he's the original teacher. Understand? That's the only difference, is his infinite compassion to make everyone equal to himself. Follow? All right. So, it's nothing... Okay. He says, hence Nichiren is the object of devotion in terms of the person. In his reply to Kyo, Nichiren writes, the soul of Nichiren is nothing other than Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. This means that Nichiren realized Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as the origin and basis of his life and embodied it as a mandala. Okay, what are we supposed to be all about here? Doing exactly that same thing. I'll read it again. This means that Nichiren, or any one of us at this table, realizes Nam Myoho Renge Kyo as the origin and basis of their life and embraces that object of devotion, that mandala. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. All right. Nichiren also writes in the same reply, I, Nichiren, have inscribed my life in Sumi ink, so believe in the Gohonzon with your whole heart. Ultimately, Nichiren's life embodied the principle of the oneness of the person in law, as does the Gohonzon, the object of devotion he established. Okay? So, as I would constantly refer to my understanding, okay, what was the outflow of my understanding of what the Gohonzon was as the life of Nichiren Daishonin? I constantly had this dialogue with my mentor, my master, my eternal master, a connection with this sense of Nichiren as an existing entity. Okay? But the conversations that I was having in my mind with Nichiren were actually with the eternal Buddha nature that exists in all things, that exists in my life as well. I'm having a conversation with my own Buddhahood, in truth. It took me many years to understand that. That's what I was trying to cut through, and what I was trying to start out by explaining last week, is to perceive and understand this mutual actual truth, that you can perceive the Gohonzon as the eternal Buddha, but at the same time you must perceive it as your life as well. That there is no separation, that you're not actually talking to some other outside influence or entity from your life itself. When you're when you're having that dialogue with a Gohonzon, when you're chanting with sincere devotion, when you're beseeching to perceive and understand things, okay, what is the source of the wisdom that you actually perceive? Your own reward body.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
It's not the Dharma body. It's your reward body. You're perceiving the Dharma body. That's what you're doing. Do you understand? The Dharma body is the Gohonzon. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you? Mm-hmm. All right. So that's what I was trying to get to. And I'll stop there on that point. So, going back to last week again, and continuing with, we did the 6-volume writings, then we did the Threefold Secret Teaching. Was everybody with me on the Threefold Secret Teaching? You understand? Remember what the Threefold Secret Teaching was? Again, Nichikan, qualifying that the truth is not found in any other sutra but the Lotus Sutra. That the truth is not found in the theoretical teaching of the Lotus Sutra. It's only found in the 16th in the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra, and it's not found on the surface of the 16th chapter of the essential teaching. It's found in its depths. Yes. Okay, that's the Threefold Secret Teaching. Then we touched on the 3 great secret laws, and I read that in its entirety. And everybody understands what that significance is now, right? Because it takes care of precepts, meditation, and wisdom. The 3 types of learning. Do you follow? Okay, so we're all qualified to be Buddhists. Yes?
Lotus Sutra is the only sutra who preaches about the bodhisattvas of the earth, right?
Correct. Yes, because they actually emerge for the first time at the point that the ceremony in the air commences. And that doesn't happen anywhere else but in the Lotus Sutra. All right? Your answer?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we get into the teacher. The teacher of true cause was the next thing I had from 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. Does everybody know what the teacher of true cause is?
True cause.
The teacher of true cause versus the teacher of true effect. They're 2 different teachers.
Yes.
Who are these 2 different teachers in Nichiren's teachings as Nichikan qualified them?
Nichiren and Shakyamuni.
And Shakyamuni. Right. So Nichiren is the Buddhism of true cause, That's the Buddhism of the sowing. And the Buddhism of the harvest is the Buddhism of true effect. Do you understand? So who is the teacher of true cause? The original Buddha. Understand? Because that's who teaches Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? Got to be a teacher of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to be the teacher of true cause. Right?
Yep.
Anything else is inexpedient, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So he says, in Nichiren's teachings, the Buddha who expounds the fundamental law or the true cause that enables all people to attain Buddhahood. In the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni reveals the true effect or the Buddhahood that he attained numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago. He does not, however, fully clarify the true cause or, for example, the practice that led to his enlightenment. Hence, he is called the teacher of the true effect. In contrast, Nichiren taught that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the law, implicit, as Nichikan has already expressed. It's not on the surface, it's in the depths. It's implicit in the lifespan chapter and is the cause of enlightenment for all people. Not just in the latter day, but ever. Do you understand? All right. Anyone that's ever attained Buddhahood, any Buddha has an original teacher, is the original teacher. The original teacher to any Buddha is the original teacher. It's by virtue of being introduced, learning the name of that original teacher, that you're able to manifest your innate Buddhahood. Right? When you call out Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and chanting Daimoku to the Gohonzon, you're calling the name of the eternal Buddha. The Nam-myoho Renge-kyo thus come one, right?
Right.
And you're joining your life with his life. The eternal life of the universe. He says, in contrast, Nichiren taught that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the law implicit in the lifespan chapter and is the cause of enlightenment for all people. Because he clarified the true cause for attaining Buddhahood, he is called the teacher of true cause, and his Buddhism, the Buddhism of the true cause, or the Buddhism of sowing that implants the seeds of enlightenment in the lives of those who practice it. Okay, do you understand that now? Okay, so Nichiren is the teacher of true cause. Now, but what's the source of the teacher of true cause? Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, so the teacher of true cause is the same teacher as Nichiren, is the same teacher as the original Buddha. Okay? Do you understand that point? That's what I'm trying to get you to understand, is that, again, the Gohonzon, your Buddha nature, the essence of your life, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the life of Nichiren Daishonin, the Buddhism of the sowing, the Buddhism of true cause, that's all the same thing. That is all the same thing. Your life contains all of that. Your life is not separate or, distinguishable from any of that. Because if you are a bodhisattva of the earth, you are a Buddha. And if you are a Buddha, you're every one of the things that I just described. And they're all the same. Right? Okay. So, everybody understands that. So, okay, so now we go to observation of the mind. All right, what is Buddhahood? What is observation of the mind? All right, according to Kanjin, according to the dictionary, it says, to perceive or awaken to the ultimate reality inherent in one's life. What did I just say? To perceive or awaken to the ultimate reality inherent in one's life. Also, that's chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right?
Yeah.
That's basically without knowing what you're doing or knowing anything more than that, that is what you're doing. Okay? You are awakening to the ultimate reality inherent in your life. All right? Also, the method of practice that makes this possible. Okay? So the truth and the practice that leads to the truth are one and the same. All right? In contrast with the doctrinal study of the Buddhist Sutras, observation of the minds means to perceive in the depths of one's being the truth that is beyond verbal explanation. Do you understand why I said in the first place you've got to find your own Buddhahood? Because you just qualified right there. It's beyond verbal explanation. Verbal explanation can lead you there, but the seeking spirit joining with the eternal life of the Gohonzon is what allows you to do actual Ichinen Sanzen, which is Buddhahood. Do you understand? Okay? Anything other than that is theoretical. It's just knowledge. It's just knowing something. It's not doing the things necessary to manifest it. Okay? All right. So, observing the mind is particularly stressed in Tiantai's practice, in which meditation is focused on the true nature of the mind rather than upon some exterior object. Okay? We understand the practice and the principles of great concentration and insight versus the Buddhism of the sowing of Nichiren. Right? One is meditation and the other one's recitation. Correct? All right. One's okay. Pardon me, where am I? Okay. Excuse me. In great concentration and insight, which is Makashikan, Tiantai taught meditation to perceive the region of the unfathomable. Now, what's that, a region of the unfathomable? That's that point, again, that's beyond verbal explanation. That's what they're talking about, is to perceive your Buddha nature. You know, you can hear the words that explain that to you a million times and not perceive it. You will understand it theoretically. You'll go, okay, yeah, I get it. But you will not understand yourself to be the Buddha. That's what they're talking about. When you perceive yourself to be the Buddha, and you are now the Buddha, you can never go back. You really know you really are the Buddha. That's actual Ichinen Sanzen. That's the region of unfathomable. Okay? That's what only you can fathom yourself.
Yes.
Do you understand? That doesn't come from going to meetings. That comes from a seeking spirit and the influence of the Gohonzon on your life. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Okay. So he's saying...
I have another question.
Sure, do it.
Is then someone who doesn't chant, is this person then able to attain Buddhahood or to be a Buddha?
Yes, of course, because they have that potentiality inherent in their life. But unless they're doing the things that draw it forth, it's only there theoretically. Again, that's why we call the first of the 6 stages of practice being being a Buddha in theory. That's when you haven't heard the name and the words of the truth yet. You've got that potential, but you haven't done the things that bring it forth, that call it out.
So they can only attain then Buddhahood or to be Buddha if this person starts to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo?
In the latter day of the law, yes. Period. That is the teaching of Nichiren. Whether people, if that seems too constrictive, it's not. Because of the teachings actually explaining how this very large, obtuse thing that's been going on for a couple thousand years has been qualified into a very simple, clear, powerful, most powerful form of the teaching of the sowing of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the Buddhism of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So yes, this is the only way you can attain true enlightenment as it's described and explained by Nichiren, which is the original state, not acquired enlightenment where you know a bunch of shit. But see, you can express knowing a bunch of shit and it's still all theory because you're not doing any of it. Knowing and doing are two different things. That is a separation. Do you follow?
I mean, how to explain some persons who did and who doesn't practice in persons that we want to shakabuku. I mean, for them, sometimes it's hard to say, okay, Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism is the only true teaching where I can attain Buddhahood.
I understand that, and that's why you generally wouldn't say that to somebody the first time you met them. And everything that we're discussing here is to qualify and clarify it for all of you that are paying attention for whatever reason that you are, so that you can go back and chant about it to understand it deeply from the source, your own life. I'm giving you all the material to show you that I'm not making any of this up. Okay? But that's my point. You can't explain any of this until you embody it in your life. You can only explain it theoretically. So why go there? Unless you have somebody ask you specifically that question. You would never make the declarative trying to convince them to try chanting by saying, this is the only way you can do it. You know, you don't need to. You don't need to make it that sharp-edged on the front end. They're going to ask the question, well, what about other ways? Then you specifically, of course, You don't let them slander. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, again, what I'm qualifying is that the Buddhism of the sowing is the only means to attain Buddhahood in the latter day of the law. What is Buddhahood? It is a state, a life state described by the Buddha that we refer to historically as Shakyamuni. Shakyamuni had 60 years of teaching. All right? Embodied within that 60 years of teaching is a lot of specific stuff. Okay, so if you were going to talk about attaining enlightenment or attaining Buddhahood, you can only be referring to trying to attain the state that was referred to or referenced by Shakyamuni originally. We wouldn't be talking about enlightenment being something from Descartes or name some big philosopher, Thoreau or Ike. Again, anybody. No, anybody other than the person that left the object of devotion. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right? So, again, when we talk about Buddhism and you talk about Buddhahood, you're talking about a specific teaching, right?
Yeah.
That teaching and all of the do's and don'ts and whys and wherefores are all contained within the 84,000 teachings that Shakyamuni taught during the course of his lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. That's called the Buddhism of the harvest. Then, in the 5th half millennium after his death, as he had prophesied, someone came along and qualified what the essential nature of that teaching was. Because after 2,000 years after his death, his teaching would no longer have the ability to instill this Buddhahood in the lives of the people that existed in that time. It had to go through an update. They were different people. The people that live today are different than the people from 2,700 years ago. Right? Hello?
Yeah.
And we're different in our understanding. We're different in our outlook. We're different in every way. Mm-hmm. We're inherently different. We're different from the temporary gathering of the 5 components from the very beginning. So again, Buddhism of the sowing is the only thing that allows you to attain Buddhahood in a single lifetime. There is no teaching in Shakyamuni's Buddhism that says you can attain Buddhahood in a single lifetime without having mastered the 3 kinds of learning. Go for it. Do you follow what I'm saying? That's why the 3 great secret laws are so significant. Do you understand? All of this stuff that I'm talking about all ties together.
Yeah. Yes.
To give the explanation to the question that you just asked, actually. But I don't want to confuse you. So is that clear? And if it isn't, ask again, Shufan. I'll answer again. It is clear. Okay. You're not getting the stuff that I'm putting out online, so you'll get it when we read it. But this is coming from, again, 3 specific goshos that I'm going to be referring to, but I'm giving the background on it in advance from the dictionary. Right, continuing on observation of the mind. All right? Nichiren. Okay, this means, he says that 3,000... Okay, let me go back. Tiantai taught meditation to perceive the region of the unfathomable, which is interpreted as either the unification of the 3 truths in a single mind or the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. We understood what the unification of the 3 truths was, right? The truth of the middle way.
Yeah.
You understand that, right? Mm-hmm. Which was the whole purpose of the meditation of Makashikan, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, or 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, which is what is the underlying key thing to the 3,000 realms. Mutual possession of the 10 worlds, right? Okay, so he says, again, this means in essence to perceive one's inherent Buddhahood, which is the goal of the Tiantai system of meditation. Okay, and the inherent Buddhahood comes from the original Buddha. Do you understand? That's where inherent Buddhahood comes from, because you're the same as the original Buddha. Once the original Buddha attained Buddhahood, you gained inherent Buddhahood. It was validated as existing in life itself. Do you understand? Mm. It's not something that's added. Never has been. Do you understand? Hello? I'm still talking to you, Shufan.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So, Nichiren, going on with observation in the mind. Nichiren defined Tentai's observation of the mind as follows. The observation of the mind means, now again, Tentai's already said what he thinks the observation of the mind is, right? But Nichiren's changing that now. Okay? He's saying, no, the observation of the mind needs to observe one's own mind and define the 10 worlds within it. Okay? What's the significance of that? If you find the 10 worlds within your own mind, then you've perceived the Buddha nature that exists within your own life. Right? That's one of the 10 worlds. You found Buddhahood in your own mind. That's what he's talking about. You perceived your own Buddhahood. So he's saying Nichikan, the 26th chief priest of Taisekaji Temple, interpreted the above statement in his exegesis on the object of devotion for observing the mind as follows. To observe one's own mind means to believe in the Gohonzon, the object of devotion in Nichiren's teaching. Okay? Because whether you perceive the Buddha of the Renge of the entity or the Renge that's figurative, doesn't matter. You're still embracing the same thing. The original state. Do you understand? All right. So he's saying, to find the 10 worlds within it means to chant the Daimoku of the mystic law. Okay? And if you only believe in the Gohonzon and chant the mystic law, then the 10 worlds of the Gohonzon will become the 10 worlds of your own life. In other words, the 10th world that exists in your 9-world measly life will come forth and allow it to be merged in any of those 9 worlds anytime you're in any one of them. Do you understand? Because the 10th world never exists outside of the 9. That's why he continues. He says, if only believe in the Gohonzon and chant the mystic law, then the 10 worlds of the Gohonzon will become the 10 worlds of your own life. Your Buddha nature will manifest. This interpretation is based on the passage from Nichiren's Object of Devotion for the Observing the Mind that reads, Shakyamuni's practices, and I said this last week also, Shakyamuni's practices and the virtues he consequently attained are all contained within the 5 characters of Myoho Rengekyo. If we believe in these 5 characters, we will naturally be granted the same benefit as he was. In Nichiren's teaching, the observation of the mind means to believe in the Gohonzon, the embodiment of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, and chant the Daimoku. This is the teaching that embracing the Gohonzon is in itself observing one's own mind or attaining enlightenment. Do you understand? So your faith in the Gohonzon allows you to actually attain Buddhahood in the absence of any of this being clear from a doctrinal standpoint. You aren't limited to know what I'm talking about before you can attain Buddhahood. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the theoretical framework for why that is the case. That without knowing anything, you're the Buddha. Do you understand? I'm explaining it to you so somebody could say, how could that be? Because the Daishonin already was asked that question. He's already answered that question numerous times in numerous writings. I'm just bringing that to light to you. Okay? So, observation of the mind also means to interpret the sutras from the viewpoint of the truth one realizes in one's own life. In Nichiren's teaching, it means to read the sutras from the viewpoint of the principle of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? So we read the perfect teaching from the standpoint of the Buddhism of the sowing, wherever it exists in the Buddhism of the harvest. Do you understand? Then it's part of the perfect teaching. At that point in time, it becomes a reference point of the perfect teaching of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Get it? Get it? Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so, but also here he says, Shakyamuni's practices and the virtues he consequently attained are all contained within the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. But what does that also say? Okay, Shakyamuni's a Buddha, power, big time, done all kinds of things, created many, many causes. Okay? He's saying, again, Shakyamuni's practices and the virtues he consequently attained are all contained. That means that all of the virtues that you attain are also contained. That means that, again, is the power of the Buddhism of the sowing based on Shakyamuni's Buddhahood? No, it's based on the original teacher's Buddhahood. Okay, so this goes, what he just said about Shakyamuni really applies to the eternal Buddha. And all Buddhas that fall under the eternal Buddha, which is all Buddhas. Because all Buddhas fall under the original teacher. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So all of the merit of all the Buddhas throughout the three existences is tapped into by each Buddha that realizes their Buddha nature. That's what gives them this power to manifest without knowing anything. Without knowing or understanding anything. Just drinking the mother's milk. Just chanting the Daimoku. That's all they gotta know. All they gotta know is the name of the thus come one. The Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come one. Okay? And contained within it is everything else. They don't have to know everything else first to get to the name. Do you follow? Now, after they know the name, the wisdom to perceive all of that correctly will become manifest. That's why you learn all this shit. So you can understand it correctly when you're capable to. Okay? That's it. Does that make sense to you? Is what I was talking about last week making more sense to you, I hope? I don't have the same looks around the table. Maybe it's just that I feel better. It's a reflection of my life condition. Okay? But I'm happy because I stressed over this for a week, especially based on our conversations at length that night. Now, does everybody understand the Buddha of beginningless time then? Okay? What's the Buddha of beginningless time? Would be the Buddha of Kuan-ganjo, right?
Right.
Right? Okay. Which would, let me just read it. Also, eternal Buddha, original Buddha, or true Buddha. All three things pertain to this Buddha of beginningless time. Because we're true Buddhas too, but we're not the Buddha of beginningless time. Okay? But the Buddha of beginningless time is a true Buddha. So, this is going to get a little confusing, but don't get confused. Let's say it very clearly. Buddha of beginningless time, Kuan-ganjo no Jiyuyushi. Also eternal Buddha, original Buddha, or true Buddha. The Buddha who has been eternally endowed with the three bodies, the Dharma body, the reward body, and the manifested body, thereby embodying the eternal law or the ultimate truth of the life and the universe. Did you understand what that just said? Okay, he's talking again. The Buddha who has been eternally endowed with the three bodies. Who is the original entity that was originally eternally endowed with the three bodies? It was the original Buddha, whose teacher was the law. That Buddha is the teacher of all other Buddhas. There are no other Buddhas that are taught by the law. They're taught by the Buddha that was taught by the law. That's the original teacher. Okay? That original Buddha's life and the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are fused as one. The law was just, they're the same thing now. Now, theoretically, that applies to everybody. But only if they do the same thing that the original teacher did. They have to embrace the law from that same perspective, but they don't have the wisdom to understand how to do that. Okay? That's why faith is necessary. We have faith in the teachings of this original teacher and thereby acquire that body. Do you understand? Do you understand? Okay? So that's how it occurs for us because we don't have to go through the process of becoming a sage. Do you understand? All right. So, also eternal, let me try and get through it. The Buddha who has been eternally endowed with the three bodies, the Dharma body, the reward body, the manifested body, which is also us when we embrace the Gohonzon with faith, thereby embodying the eternal law or the ultimate truth of life in the universe, which is what we do when we embrace the Gohonzon with faith, right? Right. Okay. This term appears in Nichiren's writing given to his successor Nico titled On the Principle of the True Cause. Now, does anybody understand why that's a significant teaching? Why this writing is so specifically, again, in accordance with this lineage that I've discussed and brought to light here. What did I just say? Let me read it again. This term, Buddha of beginningless time, appears in Nichiren's writing. It doesn't appear anywhere else. Buddha of beginningless time. Buddha of Kuan. Okay? In his in the writing given to his successor Nikko. Nikko. So would Nichiren Shu believe in this? Would Khenpo Hokke Shu, with any of those other, when I talked about those 5 major schools and the 44 different, would any of them all believe exactly what we just know? No. Anybody that's not behind Nikko, Nikko in lineage would not, because they would immediately say, no, that's not a real writing. Okay? So that's how it's disputed by other schools. They say this is something that Nikko, Nikko made up. All right? So that's why he says the term appears in Nichiren's writing given to his successor Nikko. Titled On the Principle of the True Cause, it refers to the mystic law, uncreated and eternal, of the Buddha of beginningless time. Now that's talking about the original teacher and the original teacher's teacher. Do you understand? All right. The mystic law, uncreated and eternal, of the Buddha of beginningless time. Do you follow? And states that the mystic law lies in the depths of the lifespan 16th chapter of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. That's what Nichikan also qualified later, right? So Nichiren qualified it in his writing given to Nikko, okay, which is called On the Mystic Principle of the True Cause. All right. Nichikan then clarified, based on that writing given to Nikko by Nichiren, what Nichiren was saying to Nikko in that writing given to Nichiren. And that's why all this clarification comes out, not in Nikko's lifetime, but in Nichikan's lifetime. Do you understand? This may have been exactly what Nikko was teaching all along, but maybe only doing it like in the same way as the Ongikudan. Not really written down, oral teaching, because it's like, ooh, you know, it's based on faith that you're able to go there, all right? And it's only by manifesting actual proof that you're able to believe, all right? So he's saying, uncreated and eternal of the Buddha beginningless time, and states that the mystic law lies in the depths of the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Nichikan, the 26th chief priest of Taisekuji Temple, identified Nichiren as that Buddha, based on the fact that Nichiren was the first to spread the mystic law. According to Nichiren, the Japanese term Jitsu Yushin literally means the body that is freely used, received and used. The Buddha of beginningless time is also called the Buddha of limitless joy, indicating the Buddha who freely derives boundless joy from the law while enjoying absolute freedom, and who directly expounds the law that he realized within his own life. In the lifespan chapter, Shakyamuni revealed his attainment of Buddhahood, numberless major world system dust particle kalpas in the past. No matter how far in the past, however, it occurred at a fixed point in time and therefore is not eternal. Moreover, he did not clarify the law or the cause that enabled him to attain enlightenment at that time. Now, these are all the predications that Nichikan used to say, no, it's Nichiren we're talking about here. All right? In contrast, the Buddha of beginningless time is eternal and also represents eternal life endowed with both the 9 worlds and Buddhahood. Can only be the Gohonzan. That's why it can only be Nichiren. Do you understand? Yes. Are you with me? Yes. In the opening of the eyes, Nichiren states, this is the doctrine of original cause and original effect. It reveals that the 9 worlds are all present in beginningless Buddhahood. That means Buddhahood never exists without the 9 worlds. And Buddhahood is inherent in the beginningless 9 worlds. That means the 9 worlds never exist without Buddhahood. Okay? This is the true mutual possession of the 10 worlds. He's qualifying. This is not the theoretical. This is like actual Ichinen Sanzen. This is the truth. This is the true 10 worlds. The true 100 worlds and 1,000 factors. The true 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Everybody with me? Yes. The distinction that he's making there. Here, original cause refers to the beginningless 9 worlds, and original effect to beginningless Buddhahood. What Nichiren defined as the true 3,000 realms in a single moment of life is the original state of life. Now let me stop there because this is very key to me. I'm going like, I wonder, okay. Again, here original cause refers to the beginningless 9 worlds. And original effect to beginningless Buddhahood. Doesn't it seem like it should be just the opposite? Okay. Here, original cause, wouldn't that seem like that should be beginningless Buddhahood, right? Original cause, beginning. No, because the sage, again, Buddhahood has always existed with the 9 worlds, right? Yes. So it was always there before the law taught the sage, right? Yes. Was the sage made out of ink? No. Was he out? No, he was of the 9 worlds, all living entities of the 9 worlds, right? So what is the original source of this truth? It's the 9 worlds that discovered the 10th world.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what's the beginning and what follows? Do you follow? All right. Yeah. So that's why from this standpoint, that kind of flips a little bit. Do you understand? Yes. Because the sage was just like any one of us as common mortals. All right? Just that he had gone up to the 9th world and he was a sage. Mm-hmm. So he was able to perceive all this. Okay. So let me go back, since I said my little explanation there. This is the true mutual possession of the 10 worlds, the true 100 worlds and 1,000 factors, the true 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Here, original cause refers to the beginningless 9 worlds and original effect to beginningless Buddhahood. They are never separate. What Nichikan defined as the true 3,000 realms in a single moment of life is the original state of life. It is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. To manifest this state of life is the attainment of Buddhahood for all people. So when the sage manifested this state of a life, it's attainment of Buddhahood for all people. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Do you understand?
Yes.
The principle behind that.
Right.
Nichikan established the practice that enables everyone to achieve this by inscribing the Gohonzon, mm-hmm. or the object of devotion that embodies this original state of life, mm-hmm. and prescribing the invocation of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay? Understand? Yes. So now, what's this Buddha of limitless joy? That's the rest of us that are not original Buddhas. Buddha of limitless joy is broader in me than Buddha of self-enjoyment, which is another translation of Jiju Yushin, and you can look that up if you want to, but this is more specific to us. Mm-hmm. Tentai identified the Buddha of limitless joy with the Buddha revealed in the essential teaching, latter half of the Lotus Sutra, whom he identified as the Buddha originally endowed with the 3 bodies, the Dharma body, the reward body, the manifested body. Here, these 3 bodies are regarded as 3 integral aspects of a single body, i.e. the fundamental law, or law to which he is enlightened, the Dharma body, the wisdom to realize it, the reward body, and the merciful actions to help people attain Buddhahood, the manifested body. Okay, now, in Tentai's time, there was only the Buddhism of the harvest. Yes. Remember that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he can make no reference to the Buddhism of the sowing. So he can only refer to Shakyamuni.
Yes.
Okay, do you understand? Mm-hmm. So that's what he's talking about. He's talking about numberless major world systems, dust particle, kalpas ago Buddha. That's who Tentai's talking about. Nietzsche's talking about Kuan-ganjo Buddha.
Yes.
Do you understand? Mm-hmm. There's a differentiation. They're both contained within one another. Do you understand? There's no Buddha that doesn't contain all Buddhas. Mm-hmm. Okay? There's no law that doesn't contain their lives as well. So let me start over again. Tentai identified the Buddha of limitless joy with the Buddha revealed in the essential teaching. That's the distinction here. This is the one that's revealed in the Lotus Sutra, not the Buddhism of the sowing. Whom he defined as the Buddha originally endowed with the 3 bodies, the Dharma body, the reward body, the manifested body. Here, these 3 bodies are regarded as 3 integral bodies of a single Buddha, okay? I.e. the fundamental truth or law of which he was enlightened to, the wisdom to realize it, the reward body, and the merciful actions to help people attain Buddhahood, the manifested body. Dengyo had his own thing. He said he says this is a single moment of life. He says not just Shakyamuni, because now we've got this clarification that's been reiterated by Tentai. Okay, that Jigatoka Burai is all living beings, right? Yes. Okay, so Dengyo said, a single moment of life comprising the 3,000 realms is itself the Buddha of limitless joy, because it has the same potentiality for actual Ichinen Sanzen, right? Everybody does, right? And he perceived that. This is the Buddha. This Buddha has forsaken august appearances. He appears as common mortals that are actually manifested, have the ability to manifest the 10th world, right? Because we're not expedient means. We're real. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm running late. Well, that's okay. I'll get, just like I said last week, I'll get through all this, and that's as far as I'll go, and I'll start reading Goshos next week. Dengyo identified the true identity of the Buddha of limitless joy as a single moment of life in which all 3,000 realms exist. This is Dengyo's description of the same Buddha Tentai mentions. Okay? Still trying to qualify what was Shakyamuni talking about in the 16th chapter on a deeper level than just the surface. They're all trying to perceive that. Do you understand? Right? Nichiren identified the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life as the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo that he realized within his own life. In other words, Nichiren established two concepts of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. One is Tentai's and the other his own. In his treatment of illness, Nichiren writes, there are two ways of perceiving the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. One is theoretical and the other is actual. What Tentai and Dengyo practiced was theoretical, because they're not chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. But what I practice now is actual. Because what I practice is superior, the difficulties attending it are that much greater. That's why I'm going through more difficult, more trials than they are. All right? The doctrine of Tentai and Dengyo was the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life of the theoretical teaching, while mine is that of the essential teaching. Theirs was of the Buddhism of the sowing. Mine is part of the Buddhism of the harvest. Mine is the Buddhism of the sowing. These two are as different as heaven is from earth. So he's qualifying his Buddhism and the Buddhism of the harvest are two different things. All right? And he's saying Tentai's and Dengyo's perceptions and understanding and mine are not the same. Okay? Mine is the correct. Theirs is they were trying to get there. Okay? They are my disciples. Tentai established the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life based on the true aspect of all phenomena, the phrase from the Expedient Means, 2nd chapter of the Lotus Sutra. On the other hand, Nichiren states in the opening eyes, the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life is found only in one place. Pardon me, I had to skip again. On the other hand, Nichiren states in the opening, the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life is only found in one place, hidden in the depths of the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching in Lotus Sutra. That's what Nichikan said, right? Yeah. He reiterated that. Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu were aware of it, but did not bring it forth into light. Tentai Chichi alone embraced it and kept it ever in mind. Obviously, what Tentai embraced and kept ever in mind does not refer to the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life that Tentai was talking about. Nichiren regarded it as Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nichikan, the 26th chief priest of Chaisekaji Temple, who is known for his commentaries on Nichiren's writings, interpreted Nichiren's teaching, saying that the Buddha of the essential teaching is not the eternal Buddha, not the original Buddha, but the Buddha who attained enlightenment at a fixed point in time, numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago, just like we would have as well. From this viewpoint, the Buddha of the essential teaching, last half of the Lotus Sutra, is not eternally endowed with the three bodies, because he's not a Nam-myoho Renge-kyo Buddha. He's not a true Buddha, but is rather the Buddha who advanced to the state of limitless joy through the Bodhisattva way, thereby acquiring the three bodies. In contrast, Nichikan stated that the Buddha who embodies eternal life, endowed with all of the 10 worlds and the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, whereby all Buddhas attained enlightenment, is originally endowed with the three bodies since time without beginning, and that Buddha is what Nichiren called the Buddha of beginningless time, our original state. Nichikan concluded that Nichiren embodied that Buddha, and again, he embodied it in the Gohonzon, and the Gohonzon is representative of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And what is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo? The ninth consciousness. What is the ninth consciousness? Our original state. Everybody's with me? Okay, it's 9:14. I just want to get to true Buddha, and then I'm pretty much done. Yes. True Buddha, Hombutsu, a Buddha in his true identity. In contrast to his transient or provisional identity, this term is applied in two ways. To Shakyamuni Buddha, he is described as he described himself in Lifespan, 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, that is, as having attained Buddhahood in the remote past, countless kalpas ago. In that chapter, Shakyamuni states, in all the worlds, the heavenly and human beings and asuras all believe that the present Shakyamuni Buddha, after having left the palace of the Shakya, seated himself in the place of meditation, not far from the city of Gaya, and thereby attained supreme perfect enlightenment. But, good men, it has been immeasurable, boundless, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas of kalpas since I, in fact, attained Buddhahood. With this statement, Shakyamuni redefines his identity as a Buddha who originally attained his enlightenment in the remarkably remote past, instead of the one that attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. From the standpoint of the philosophy of the Lotus Sutra, again, from the standpoint of the philosophy of the Lotus Sutra, the Shakyamuni who is taught to have attained enlightenment in the current life under the Bodhi tree in India is a provisional Buddha, or a Buddha in his transient identity. In his provisional identity, Shakyamuni is seen as a temporary manifestation of the true Buddha who employed various temporary expedient teachings to prepare people to understand his true identity and true teaching, and thereby lead them to enlightenment. Okay, which is what he does in the 16th chapter when he reveals numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago. He says, from the perspective of the content of the Lotus Sutra, the true Buddha corresponds to the Shakyamuni depicted in the essential teaching latter half of the Lotus Sutra, while the Buddha in his transient identity is the Shakyamuni of the theoretical teaching first half of the Sutra. Okay, again, why? Because it's important to understand this, because Tentai is going to do all of his stuff based on this Buddhism of the harvest interpretation, okay, that Nagarjuna has already discussed and so forth, all right? 2, as a reference to Nichiren, applied to him traditionally by those of the lineage of his disciple Nikko, again, from the Fuji school. Generally applied to him traditionally by those of the lineage of his disciple Nikko, who then Nichikan followed. In the profound meaning of the Lotus Sutra, Tentai refers to the true cause and the true effect. Tentai refers to them as the first 2 of the 10 mystic principles, which he also divined out of all this, the 10 mystic principles of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra based on the revelation of Shakyamuni's original enlightenment, attainment of enlightenment in the remote past, numberless major world system. Okay? He associates the true cause with the sentence in the Lifespan chapter, originally I practiced the Bodhisattva way, and the life that I acquired then has yet to come to an end. And the true effect with the sentence, since I attained Buddhahood, an extremely long period of time has passed. In the remote past, Shakyamuni practiced the Bodhisattva way, the true cause, and attained Buddhahood, the true effect. Shakyamuni never specifically reveals, however, what teaching he originally practiced, the original cause or the seed of his Buddhahood. Again, understand, all this is with Tentai. The Buddhism of the sowing hasn't been taught yet. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo doesn't exist yet. He's working on what he's got to work with. Yeah. Regarding this, Nichiren states, the doctrine of the sowing of the seed and its maturing and harvesting is the very heart and core of the Lotus Sutra. All the Buddhas of the 3 existences and the 10 directions have invariably attained Buddhahood through the seeds represented by the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. From this perspective, Nichiren is regarded as the teacher of true cause, as clarified by Nichikan. Do you understand? Not numberless major world system, dust particle kalpas ago Buddha, who is the teacher of true cause according to Tentai. You get it?
Yes.
There's that differentiation. This is because in the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni revealed his eternal Buddhahood, the effect of his original Bodhisattva practice. From this perspective, Nichiren is regarded as the teacher of true cause, and Shakyamuni is the teacher of true effect. This is because in the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni revealed his eternal Buddhahood, the effect of his original Bodhisattva practice. He did not, however, reveal the true cause or the nature of his specific practice by which he attained it. Nichiren, on the other hand, revealed the teaching and practice of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which he identified as the true cause that enables all people to attain Buddhahood. This viewpoint identifies Nichiren as the true Buddha. Nichiren explains the passage of the Lotus Sutra cited above that Tentai had already reflected on as it has been immeasurable, boundless, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of nayutas of kalpas since I in fact attained Buddhahood. In the record of the orally transmitted teachings, he says, I in fact is explaining that Shakyamuni in fact attained Buddhahood in the inconceivably remote past. The meaning of this chapter, however, is that I represents the living beings of the phenomenal world, right? I here refers to each and every being in the 10 worlds. In fact, establishes that I is a Buddha eternally endowed with the 3 bodies. This is what is being called a fact. Attained refers both to the one who attains and what is attained. Again, to the teaching and the means to do it. Attain means to open or to reveal. It is to reveal that the beings of the phenomenal world are Buddhas, eternally endowed with the 3 bodies. Buddhahood means being enlightened to this. Okay? Clarifies again, nothing more than that. Here Nichikan is saying that every being is essentially a Buddha, eternally endowed with the 3 bodies, a true Buddha. In this sense, true Buddha refers to the Buddha nature, in this sense, the true Buddha refers to the Buddha nature eternally inherent in the lives of all living beings. In the true aspect of all phenomena, Nichikan states, a common mortal is an entity of the 3 bodies and a true Buddha. A Buddha is a function of the 3 bodies and a provisional Buddha. All right? I've already read all of this to you from all these various goshos multiple times. And if you can see if new thoughts are coming to your brains right now, new thoughts will come to your brains every time you hear these again. Okay? That's why we read them and we reread them. That's why I sound totally redundant, but I'm not being redundant. Because this is peeling back the skins of an onion. Okay? That's what you're doing. It's the whole thing was onion. Okay? Peeling back the skin just gets you closer to the center, the essence of it. But the whole thing's always been an onion, whether you peel back any skins or not. Right? Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.